Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, I will explain CRUD operations using PHP MySQL with a book list project. So let me show you a quick demo of the project. So this is the list of the book. You can create new book by clicking add new book. Let's add a new book here. So you see the list, the book in the list into the wild. You can also read more about the book by clicking read more. You'll see all the information here, and you can edit any book you want by clicking the edit button. For example, let's change the author name to Will. So the name is changed to Will here. You can also delete any book you want by clicking the delete button. So that's the demo of the project. Now we can get started. Before that, please subscribe to my channel if you are new to the channel so that you can get all the updates. Now let's get started. I'm using XAMPP to run PHP. You can download it from here. XAMPP download. So I have already downloaded it and installed it. So after you install it, on your installation folder there should be a new folder called XAMPP. In this case it is C drive. So here on the C drive I have XAMPP, and in the XAMPP folder there is another folder called htdocs. So we'll have to create the project on this folder. Let me create a new project here and let's name it CRUD. Now we can open this project using Visual Studio Code. So you can use other code editor if you want. So let's open the folder from that specific location. So it is CRUD. Now first of all we will create a new file for adding new book. So let's create a new file, name it create.php. Now let's put the HTML5 generic code using the shortcut, and now we'll change the title to create or add new book. Now we can use Bootstrap for styling. So as this is a PHP project, we don't want to spend much time on styling. So let's grab the Bootstrap CDN. So you can get the Bootstrap CDN from this website, and we just need the CSS part. So let's copy the one that has HTML link, and let's put it in the between the head tag, opening and closing head tag. Okay, now we can put a container here. Container is a predefined Bootstrap class. So let's talk about Bootstrap a little bit. Bootstrap is a framework, CSS framework or front-end framework that make your life a lot easier, that has lots of predefined class. So you don't need to put the styles, lots of styling already done there. For example, container is a Bootstrap class. So it will make the div element centered and it will give a maximum height. Now let's put the form here. So here the method should be post because we'll send a post request to the server. Now I'll get back to the action later. Now let's add the fields. We can keep the fields into a parent div, name form element. Now for the first field, we will put a book title. So it is a text field. So type should be text, and here name should be title. So this name will be used in the PHP file as reference, so it is important. Now to show an instruction to the user, we can put placeholder. So here we can put book title or enter book title. Now to look it better, we can put some Bootstrap class. For example, add some margin up and down. We can use my4. So it will add some margin on top and bottom of the input field. Now we can copy. Also we can add a class in the input field itself, a Bootstrap class again. So form control is the class. Now we can copy this field for other. So let's copy. You will use 4 fields, so let's copy it 4 times. Now in the second field we will use the author name. So placeholder is author name, and in the name attribute we will use author, and here the type is text, that's okay. And then in the third field we will use option, we will add some options, so it will be the type of the book. So in this case the input field will be select, so select, and the name should be type, and we don't need any ID here. Now on the first option we will use just instruction saying select book type. So here on the value there will not be any value because it is just an instruction. Now we will use 4 options for the book type. Let's copy it 4 times. You can put anything here, you can play around with it. I'm putting adventure, okay, adventure. Then let's put fantasy, then you can put maybe thriller or sci-fi. This is interesting, sci-fi, okay, I don't know the spelling. Anyway, then we can put horror. Okay, now we'll have to put the value, because we can just copy it and put it in the value. So let's do it for all. Now on the 4th option we will use book description. So here the name should be description. And now lastly we need the button, the submit button. From element, then in this case this input type should be submit as it is a button, and the class, on the class we will use button primary or button success, and here we'll have to put a name also. So as it is it's creation of the book, so we'll use the name as create, and the value should be add book. Now the form is done. We'll have to add a header on the container on the top. So on the header we'll use the back button and the title. So first one will be title. Let's put add new book. Actually we can put it on 2 columns. So to do that we can add some bootstrap class on the header. So display flex, deflex, then justify content between, and then add some margin using my4. Now we can put the title here as the first element. So add new book, and then we can put the button on another div. Here let's put a with the link. Actually we don't need the we don't have the file yet, so we'll add the link later. Let's just put back here. Now the form is ready, the create.php is ready, so we can take a look how it's looking currently on the browser. So let's take a quick look. Now we'll have to access the file using the localhost, then the name of the folder, in this case it is CRUD, and then the name of the file, create.php. So this is how it looks so far. Everything looks so good except this select field and then this back button. So let's quickly fix them. So we'll have to put a form control class on the select field. I forgot to use that. And we can put a bootstrap class on the back button. So button primary is the class we can use. Now if you check, it's looking much better. So the form is ready. Now we'll have to add this data in MySQL database when somebody click on add book. So we'll have to create a database. To create a database, we'll have to access the php-myadmin, so localhost and / and then php-myadmin. Here let's add a new database by clicking the new link. So here let's put the name as CRUD. Then let's click create. Now we'll have to create the table. We have 4 fields: book title, name, author name, book type, and then book description. So we have 4 fields, but we need a ID fields that will be auto incremented. So we need 1 extra field. That means we need 5 fields. So let's name the table as books and click create. Now the first one, as I said, the first one should be ID. It is integer type. The type is integer and it is auto increment. Also it is a primary key. Then the second one should be our field here. So the first field is title. So let's type title. Then we have author. Then we have type. And last one is description. And let's click save. So our table is database and table is created. Now we can add the PHP file to process the data and add the data to the database. So let's create the PHP file here. Let's name it process.php. Now in the form we'll have to link this process.php. So for that you'll have to put this file name process.php on the action attribute. Now to do something with the database, we need to connect with the database first. So to connect with database, actually we need the connection of the database several times on several files. So we can put that connection file in a separate file. That connection, the connection in a separate file. Let's create a new file here named connect.php. So as this is PHP code, we'll have to put the PHP tag first. Now the function that we'll use to connect with database is called MySQL connect. Here we'll have to put actually 4 things. So let's store them in variables. The first one is the host name, database host. So let's put some on variables. So first one is DB host, that means database host name. So by default the host name is localhost if you don't change anything on the XAMPP configuration. And then the database user, the database username is root, RWT by default, and the password is empty, so we don't need to put anything here. It will be just empty text. Then we have the database name. So database name is the one that we created. It is CRUD. Now we'll have to put this properties on this function. Database host, then database user, then database password, okay. Now we can put this MySQL connect function in a variable, the returning value in a variable, because we'll have to reuse that connection variable later. So let's put it in a new variable called CONN, short for connection. Let's put the function on this variable. Now to proceed, before proceeding further, we'll have to check whether or not the connection is successful. So we can do that using the if statement, and in the if statement we will see what the connection variable or MySQL connect function returns. So if it returns false, we can check that using the not operator. So if it returns false, then we'll stop the code execution here by saying something went wrong. Let's quickly check this file on the browser. so that we can make sure everything is working perfectly. So let's check it on the browser localhost, then CRUD, and then connect.php. So it does not show any error. That means the connection is successful. Now for testing purpose, let's just change the database name. And now if you check, there is an error, there is a warning, and the code execution stopped here saying something went wrong. So everything is okay. Now let's quickly fix it. So we'll have to include this connect file in our process.php file. Again, we'll have to put the PHP tag, and here we can include the file using the include function. So connect.php, and then now we'll have to get this data when the user submit, when the user click the add book button. So we can get all this data using a post variable. So there is a global array variable called post in PHP. So this you can get all the information submitted by the user using this post array variable. So first of all, we'll have to check whether or not the add book function is clicked. So as you know, we used the name attribute create here on the submit button. So we can check it using the post. So if is set, that means if anybody clicks on the submit button, so we can access this using the post variable. And here the array key will be the value of the name attribute. In this case, it is create. So if the create button or add book button is clicked, then we can collect the data here. So we can put or can keep the data on some variables. So first one is title. So for the title, on the input field, we use the name attribute title. Now we can access this with the post using the post array variable, and here the array key will be title, as the name attribute is title. Now we can do some sanitization here. So if somebody put some special characters, if somebody wants to do some hacking or by mistake put some special characters, so we'll have to escape those special characters. We'll have to remove those special characters. We can do that using the MySQL real escape string function. So here the first argument will be the connection variable, the variable where we stored the connection, here the CONN. So that will be the first argument, and then the second argument is the data itself. So it is post title. Now we can copy this 4 times because we have four fields. The second one is author. So on the author, we use the name attribute author. So here on the post variable, the array key will be author. Then we have type. So for the type, we will use the type as the name attribute. So here it will be type. Then we have, lastly, we have description. So for the description, we have used the name as description. So here the array key will be description. Now we have stored all the data. So what we can do is we can now add the SQL command to insert the data into the database. So the SQL command in this case is, let me put it into a new variable called SQL. So here the SQL command is insert into the name of the table. So the name of the table, as you know, in the PHP MyAdmin, we have created a new table called books. So the name of the table is books. And now we'll have to put the column name here. So the column names you can check again. We have title, we have ID, title, author, type and description, but we don't need to add the ID in the SQL command because the ID will be automatically incremented. As you see, it is auto increment. So let's put the others. So title, then author, then type, and then description. Now we'll have to put the values. So the first one is we have the values on the variable. So first one is title, second one is author, third one is type, and the fourth one is description. As these are string, these are all string, we'll have to put between the single quote. For all, let's do it. Okay, now we have stored the command, the SQL command in a variable. Now we'll have to execute this command. So we can execute the command using the MySQL then query function. Here the first argument will be the connection variable again. The connection variable we have used here. And then the SQL command. So it is SQL. Now this MySQL query function can return either false or true. So if there is anything wrong with the database, it will return false. So we'll have to check that. We'll have to check whether it returns false or not, or true. So we can do that using the if statement. So if this function returns true, then we can actually show a message to the user saying record inserted. Otherwise, we'll stop the code execution here by the die method saying something went wrong. Now let's quickly check it on the browser. So let's refresh and then put the title here. Let's put the title into the wild, author name, Stephen, select book, type Avenger, book description, example, description, and let's click add book. So it says record inserted. Now let's check the database. Yep. So we have some problems here. It says title 0, author 0. So for some reason the data is not inserted correctly. So let me quickly check what is the problem. Okay, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. So if you check the structure here, the title type is integer and author, type, description all are integer. So I forgot to change the type. We'll have to change now. We can change it from here. So for the title, as you know, it is a string. So we have to change the type to varchar. Varchar means variable character. So for the strings that are not too big, we use varchar. And the length in this case should be based on the requirements. So I am putting here 128. Click save. Let's do it for other types, other fields. So for the author, it is also varchar, and let's put the length 128. For type, the type is varchar again. Let's put the length 50. And for the description, we'll have to change the type to text because it can be bigger text. So let's put nothing on the length. Click save. Now if we let's get back to our create.php. Now if we create a book here, let's create a new book. Let's name it into the wild, and author name will, select book type Avenger, and book description, example description, click add book, record inserted. Now if we check, so here you see the data is here, so data is inserted correctly. Now we'll have to show the data on the index page. So on this page we will show the list of the books. For that we'll have to create a new file here, name index.php. Now here we can again put the HTML5 generic code. Then let's change the title to book list, and now we can copy the header from the create.php. Before that, let's copy the bootstrap Syrian. Let's put it here. Now let's copy the header section. So before that we need a container actually. Now let's copy the header. So here instead of add new book, let's write book list, and here instead of back, so it will be list of the book, and here we'll keep an option to create new book, so add new book, and here the link should be create.php. Now here we'll add a table, so we'll show the list of the book in a table. So let's create a table here, and here we'll put some bootstrap class. So bootstrap class in this case is table, and table bordered. Now we'll put the t hat or table header. Here we'll put t row, and then inside the th table header. So here the first one should be for the id, so we'll just put a hash here. Then we need for the, as you know, our first field was title, then we have author, then we have type, then the description. So we also need an extra column for the action, that means the read more, edit and delete buttons. So let's name it action in the header. Now we'll have to put the t body, and in the t body we'll have to put the actual data. Now we'll have to grab the data. Before that, let's create another book so that we can show at least two books in the table. Let's create another book named Dracula, author name Smith, select book type horror, book description example description, add book. Okay, so we have two books, actually three books. Let's delete the first one because that was not inserted correctly. Now we have two books at least. So now we'll have to grab the data. Again, you will have to use the database. So we need the database connection before that. So again, we can include it. So as this is a PHP code, we'll have to enclose the code in PHP tag. So here let's include the connection file. So include, then connect.php. Now we need a SQL command to get all the data from the table, from the database table. So in this case, the SQL command is, let's put it in a variable. So the SQL command in this case is select star mean all. So select all from the table name is books. So select all from books, and now we'll have to execute this command using the MySQL query. And here we'll have to put the first argument. The first argument should be the connection variable, and the second argument should be the SQL command. Now let's put it into a variable. Name it result. equals to MySQL query. Now this result returns an object, so we'll have to somehow convert it to an array so that we can get the data easily. To do that, we need a new function called MySQL fetch array. MySQL fetch array. So let me show you what it returns by the printer method. Let's keep it into a new variable named row. So it returns the first, when you will call it first time, it will return the first row from the table. Let me show you quickly here. So we can show the data using the printer method. Let's go to the index.php now. So for the index.php, you don't need to put the index.php here. It will take the by default the index.php. So here you see there is one array item, and here the name of title of the book is into the wild, and you can grab it. You can get it using the array key title, and for the author you can get it for the author. So it is the first item. Now if you call it again, it will return the second item. Let me show you again. Let me show you here. So let's call it again. Now if you check here, it returns the second item, the Dracula. So now if we need all the items, so as we need all the items, we can add a while loop instead of calling again and again. So let's add the while loop here. So in the while loop, we'll have to call this function. Now as long as it will fetch the data, it will fetch the array, we'll continue the code here. We'll add the data here. So as we will have to add the data in the table row, so here we can separate the PHP code and HTML code. So let's end the PHP code here, and then let's start the PHP code again. So in between them, we will add the HTML code. So here we have T body. Now we need TR. So TR means T row. So in the T row, we need the TD, table data. Here we'll have to put the actual data. So we can access the data, as I already said, we can access the data using the row variable. So here we'll have to again add the PHP code. So let's put the PHP tag here again, and here we'll have to echo the row, and in the row, let's remove it. In the row, we'll have to put the table column as the key. So in this case, as you know, we have the title first. First one is the title. No, okay, before actually first one is the ID. As you see, first one is the ID. So here we'll have to put ID. Then let's copy it for others. So we have total 5 items. Actually, yeah, 5 items. So let's copy and paste 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the second one is title. You can see here, second one is title, third one author, and then type, and then description. So type, author actually, sorry, type, and description. And on the last table data, on the last column, we'll have to put the buttons here. So first one should be read more, and we can add a bootstrap class here so that it shows as a button. So button, and then button info for the read more. Then we need the edit button. So read more instead of read more, let's make it edit. So here the button info instead of button info, let's make it warning. And the last button is for delete. So let's write delete. And here instead of button warning, it should be button danger. Now let's quickly check if everything is working correctly. So on the book list page, yep, we have the data here. So it is for the ID, then title, then author, type, description. Everything is working perfectly. Now we need the read more page. So when somebody click here on the read more, it will show all the information of this specific book. Actually, let's remove this description column from here, so that we only show the description when they click on read more. So let's remove the description. So it will be only visible when they click on the read more. So let's also delete it from here. Yeah, now we don't have description here. Now only when you click read more, then you will see the description. Now let's add the read more page, or we can name it view.php. Let's put the HTML5 generic code using the shortcut again. And let's change the title to book details. And now let's copy the bootstrap CDN from the index.php. Copy it from here and put it in the head tag. Now let's add a container div on the body. Here we can copy the header from the index.php. So let's copy the header part. Now let's change the book list to book details and add new book to back. So we'll keep an option to get back to the index.php. So here the link will be index.php. Now let's create another div for the book details. Here we'll have to show the data from the database of the book on where it is clicked. Now somehow we'll have to know which book is clicked. So what you can do is we can put the view more link here with an ID. So with the ID of that particular book. By doing that, in the view.php you can get the ID of that particular book. So let's put the link here. Let's put the link first on the read more. So view.php is the link. Now if you click on the view read more, it will take you to the view.php, but it does not have any data here. So what you can do is you can add a question mark and you can pass some data by doing this, like ID 4. So we can access this ID on the view.php. So how can we do this? We can simply add this in the URL. So just add in the URL. Now instead of 4, we'll have to add it. We'll have to display it dynamically. So using the PHP code. So we'll have to again use the PHP tag, and here we can simply echo the ID of that book. Now if you check here, now if you click on one of the particular book, it says ID 4, and if you click on this one, it says ID 5. So now we can access the data of the ID of that particular book in the view.php. Here we can use the get variable. The get variable, it is a PHP global variable. Let me show you quickly here. So let's add the PHP code with the PHP tag, and here we can just simply echo then get. Here in the array key we'll have to put the ID. So let's show you. Now if we click on one of the book, so you see the ID is showing here. So we can access the ID using the get variable. First of all, we'll have to check whether or not this ID is available. So we can do that using the if statement. And in the if statement, we will check whether it's set or not. So we can do that using the set function. So if the ID is set, then we can show the data. So we'll show the data in the HTML divs. For that, we'll have to separate the HTML code and PHP code again. So let's separate it using by doing this. Here we'll put the HTML code. But before that, we'll have to connect with the database and collect the data. So let's connect the database first. We can just include the connection file here. So include, then connect.php. Now we'll have to collect the data of this particular ID. So let's add the SQL command. SQL, let's put it into variables, and here we'll have to add the SQL command. So it is select all from books table, where we just need one particular row. So where the ID, in this case this ID is the ID of the on the database. So this is the ID, and if that ID of the database equals to the ID that is passed by the in the URL, so let's keep it actually on a variable. So let's keep it into a variable so that you can easily use it. Now we can put the variable here. So if ID equals to the ID that is passed in the URL, we'll just get the data of that particular ID. Now let's execute this command using the MySQL query function. And we'll okay, actually the first parameter should be the connection variable and then SQL. Now let's keep it into a variable, name result, and now we'll have to convert again this variable, this result, into an array. So we can do that using the row equals to MySQL fetch array. So here the argument will be the result variable. As we are just grabbing one particular row, so we don't need to continue, or we don't need to add any while loop here. So we just access the data directly from this row variable. So now let's put the HTML code. So for the first one, let's put them in H2 tags. So first one is title. So here we can put the data into p tag. So let's add the PHP code again. Here the first one should be row and title. The array key should be title. As you know, the title was the first column in the database. Sorry. And let's just copy this for other. So the second one we can just put description. Here on the row array key will be description, as the column name of the database is description. Now let's copy it again for the type of the book. So here the title is type, and here the array key will be type. Then we need let's quickly check on the database, author name. So we need the author name. Let's add the author name here. Okay, now let's actually add a background color on this book details and also add some margin. So we can do that using the my4. So it will add some margin top and bottom. Now on the book details space, let's add a background color. We can just add the styling here on the head tag. Just one line of CSS. So on the book details, we will just add a background color, a gray color, 5 and add just some padding 50 pixel. Now let's quickly check it on the browser. So let's get back to the index.php and click one of the book, read more button. Okay, it is showing correctly, title, description, type, author. So everything is working perfectly. Now we need the edit, we need the code for the edit. So when somebody click on edit, they can edit the data. So let's do it. Let's create the edit.php file. In the edit.php, the code will be much similar to the create.php because it will be a form. So in the form, the only difference is in the form input field, it will show the value of that particular books. So let's copy the code from the create.php and put on the edit.php. And here let's change the title to edit book, and instead of add new book it should be edit book. Here it should be the index.php should be the link. Okay, I forgot to do it on the create.php, so let's do it quickly here. Index.php. Okay, let's get back to the edit.php again. Now we'll have to link this edit.php in the edit button on the index.php. So let's link it, edit.php. Again, we'll have to pass the ID of the book so that we can detect which book it is. So let's just copy this code from here. Now if you check here, so let's click on the edit here, so you see the link edit.php and with the ID 5. Now we'll have to show the value of this particular book with the ID 5 on this input field. So we'll have to again grab or get the data from the database. So again we need the database connection. So let's add the PHP code right before the form. Here let's check whether or not the ID is passed. So we can check that again with the set method, and in the set method we can put the get variable with the array key ID. So if is set ID, then we'll collect that ID. We'll put that ID into variable name ID. Now we'll have to first connect with the database. So let's include the connection.php here. And now we have to put the SQL command. So the SQL command in this case is select all from books table where ID equals to, so this ID is the ID from the database table. So if this ID equals to this ID that is passed in the URL, so if this ID is equal, then it will show the data. So let's execute this command using the MySQL query function. So here the first argument will be the connection variable, then the SQL command. Now again let's put it into a variable named result. Now we'll have to convert this result into array. So again we need the row variable, and here the function, as you know, it is MySQL fetch array. Here the argument will be the result variable. Again, this is just one particular row, so we don't need any while loop here. We can directly access data using the row variable. Now we'll have to actually put this from in the if statement. So let's separate the code again. Separate the PHP code with the HTML code. So we'll put the from inside that. Let's just cut from here and paste here. Okay, now let's show the data here on the input field. We can do that using the value attribute. Here we can put the PHP code to show the data dynamically. So we'll have to just print the data from using the row variable. So in the row, the array key for the first one is title. Now let's copy it for other fields. So for the select field, we cannot put value like this. Before that, let's change it to author. So for the select field, we cannot put value like this. We'll have to do something else. I'll get back to that few seconds later. Let's put it for the description first. So description. Now we can show the selected item by the selected attribute like this. Now we cannot put it like this because it is hard coded. We'll have to show it dynamically. So somehow we'll have to do it. So we can do it using the if statement. So if the type of the book matches this option, then we will print selected here. So we do this for all the options. So let's do it. So we'll have to add some PHP code here. So if and only if the data from the database, the type, row type matches, row type equals to adventure, row type equals to adventure, then we'll print the selected text. Okay, now let's copy it for other options. So for the second one, let's copy it first for all. Now for the second one, here instead of adventure it should be fantasy. So let's copy and paste. For the third one it is sci-fi, and the fourth one it is horror. Copy and paste here. Okay. Now on the button, instead of add book, we'll have to put edit book, and in the name attribute it should be edit. And on the action we can keep process.php. So on the process.php we'll have to check whether or not this button is clicked. So we can do that using the value of the name attribute. So we can access that again the post with the post variable. So let's actually copy it from here. Copy and paste here. So instead of create, we can detect it using the edit, as we use the name on the button edit. So if edit button is clicked, then we will collect the data like we did before. So we will collect title, author, type, description, and then here instead of insert into books, we'll have to use a different SQL command here. So update books set, so set title equals to this title is from the database column, so this title equals to this title, the new title. So let's put in the single quote because these are strings. Title, then author equals to author variable. Then we have type equals to this new type. Then we have description equals to the new description. Where ID of the database table equals to the ID that is the ID of that particular book. Now on the edit.php we will have to send that ID using a hidden input field. So let's put a hidden input field here. So type should be hidden, so it will not be visible on the front end, but we can pass the ID using this. So let's name it ID, and the value should be we can again put the PHP code here. So echo row ID. Okay, now let's get back to the process.php and let's collect the ID from, let's actually make it move full screen. Let's copy this, paste. Now here we'll change the description to ID. Alright, now let's put the ID variable here, and here instead of record inserted, let's make it record updated. Okay, now let's check it in the browser. Let's change the author name to 1, click edit book. So record updated. Now let's check it on the index page. Yep, so for the Dracula it is changing, it's showing 1. That means it's working correctly. Now the last thing we'll have to do is the delete. So let's create a new file named delete.php. Let's link this file in the delete button. So let's just copy and change the file name. So it should be delete.php, and we are sending the ID. So we can collect the ID on the delete.php. Let's put the PHP code, and we will first check whether or not the ID is there. So if we set, then get ID. So if the ID is available, then we will store the ID into a variable name ID. Now let's connect with the database using the connection file. Let's include the file name connect.php. Now we'll have to add the SQL command. So SQL command in this case is delete from books, where ID of database equals to ID of this ID variable. So now let's execute this command using the MySQL query. So here the first argument would be connection variable, and then the SQL command. Also let's put it into the if statement. So if the query is successful, we will show a message saying deleted. Now quickly check. Let's delete the last one here. Okay, it's showing deleted, and if you check the index page, the last one is deleted. So everything is working perfectly. We are nearly done. Now we'll have to make it a little bit user friendly. So when you add new book, instead of just showing a message, it should redirect to the index page, and it will show a success message on top. So let's do it. Okay, so let's go to the process.php. So here instead of record inserted message, we will utilize session. So session is a kind of storage which you can access on multiple pages. So let's start the session. Session start. And when you start a session, there is a global array variable available, should be available, named session. And on that global array variable, we can store array. So for the create, let's put the create as the array item. And here the message should be record or book added successfully, and then we will redirect user to the index page. So we can do that using the header method. Header, then the name of the file index.php. Actually first we'll have to put location text, and then index.php, the name of the file. Now for the edit, we can just copy it. Let's copy it here. So here instead of create, let's put update in the array key, and here the message should be book updated successfully, and it should not be changed. We'll just redirect them to the index.php. Let's also do it for the delete.php. Let's copy it from here and let's put it on the delete.php. So here, instead of update, the array key will be delete and the message will be book deleted successfully. The redirection should be same. Now let's get back to the index.php. So here we will check which session is set. So right above the table, let's put PHP CRUD. Here we'll have to start the session again. Session start, and then first of all we will check for the create. So if we set session, and in the array key it should be create. So if we session create, then we will separate the PHP code with this table code. Here we will put a div element with some bootstrap class. So alert and then alert success, so that it shows nicely on top. Now here we will again start the PHP code. We'll just show the message here. So the message is already stored on the session create. So let's echo it. And right after that, we'll unset it so that user don't see it again and again when they visit the page. Alright. Now let's do the same for edit and delete. So let's copy the code. Now we don't need to start the session again, so you can remove the session start method. Now for second one, it should be edit. So actually let's change it for all three. So let's do it Ctrl D with the Ctrl D. So it should be edit. Now for the third one, Ctrl G. For the third one, it should be delete. Alright. Now let's check it in the browser. So let's create a new book. Let's name it Dracula. Author name Stephen. Book type horror. Book description example description at book. Alright, so we can see the message and also the book is added in the list. Now let's read more. It's working perfectly. Let's click edit. So let's change the author name to Will. Sorry, Will. Okay. Click edit book. Alright. So the author name is changed to Will. Now let's delete the one of the item from here. Alright, book deleted successfully. Alright, so I think everything is working perfectly. Now thank you very much for watching my tutorial. Let me know if you have any question in the comments. Thank you, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel.